Welcome to a very special no bulljunk edition of Andy Staples on 3. That's right. We don't do bulljunk here. You tell us to take our glasses off inside. You tell us to take our hats off inside. No, we're not doing it. This is amazing. Deion Sanders is the gift that keeps on giving to the college football world, because this was a pretty boring Thursday ahead of a week of games that everybody keeps telling me is going to be dull. I disagree, but there are no marquee matchups on the slate. College game day is going to Boulder for Colorado State versus Colorado, which on paper doesn't look like a great matchup. But it got a lot more interesting thanks to Colorado State coach Jay Norvell, who said this on his radio show.
And I sat down with ESPN today, and I don't care if they hear it in Boulder. I told them I took my hat off and I took my glasses off, and I said, when I talk to grown-ups, I take my hat and my glasses off. That's what my mother taught me. So
I'm a sports writer. You do not have to take your hat or your glasses off to talk to me. I'm barely an adult, for goodness sakes. But I appreciate you, Jay Norvell. I do. I'm not going to say anything about Jay Norvell here because I like it when coaches say interesting things. That's what I like about Deion Sanders. And I'm glad Jay Norvell said something interesting because it's going to make this game more interesting. It makes me want to watch it more. And that was the point. So this is the thing. All these coaches don't realize they're in the entertainment business. I think Deion understands that completely. And that's why I'm sure it didn't hurt his feelings that bad that Jay Norvell said he needs to take his sunglasses off or his hat off in a press conference. I don't think Deion cares about that one bit. But I think Deion knows it creates great content.
Yes, sir. I'm minding my own business, watching some film, trying to get ready, trying to get out here and be the best coach I could be. And I look up and I read some bull junk that Deion said about us. Talk to us. Once again, talk to us. Why would you want to talk about us when we don't talk about nobody? All we do is go out here, work our butts off, and do our job on Saturday. Yes, but when they give us ammunition, they done messed around and made it what? It was just going to be a good game. And made this shit personal. They done messed around and made it personal. It was going to be a great test, a battle of Colorado, but they done messed around and made it personal.
You know what happened to them last security guards?
That's Jimmy. Talk to him, Jimmy. What Jimmy? Jimmy, talk to him, Jimmy.
Y'all know what happened to the last security guard. Y'all know what happened to the last security guard.
Come on, Craig. Y'all know
what happened to the last security
You don't even know.
Hey, bump on me, bump.
I love that a third of the team, when he says they made it and you're supposed to say personal, the 2/3 of the team, right on cue, personal. And like a third, personal. And then the second time they do it, 90% of the team gets it. But there's like two guys, personal. That would have been me. That was me on every team I was on. I never figured out the saying stuff in unison. The clapping in unison during warmups, couldn't do it. When people would start doing the whoop, 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 I never knew when to start that or stop it. I would have been that one or two stragglers who were like, yeah, personal, coach, personal. I love this. I love that we care so much about Colorado State and Colorado. Other coaches, take note. You're in the entertainment business. If you're Kirby Smart, sure, just go smash people. If you're Ryan Day, like go win national titles. That's your job. Everybody else, you're in the entertainment business. You're selling tickets. You're selling TV shows. Let's make this fun because that's what it is. Next up, we got a guy who I guarantee you doesn't take any bull junk. He is 6'4". He is 362 pounds. He is the heart of Texas's defensive line. His name is T'Vondre Sweat. Had a great game against Alabama, and now he's going to explain why Texas's D-line is so good. Honored to be joined now by T'Vondre Sweat of the Texas Longhorns. Fresh off win against Alabama. They're playing Wyoming this week. And T-Sweat, I have to ask you, what did that feel like on the field at Bryant-Denny Stadium after you guys secured that win?
It felt great. I mean, in the moment, we just did what we did. Then after we celebrated, now we on to the next.
So I got to ask you this. I found this video on your Instagram. Okay, I can tell what you're saying. You're saying we're going all the way. We're going to ball. What does Matthew McConaughey say to you to evoke that response?
Honestly, I can't even tell you. Like, it was just so in a moment. But like, oh, let me think. What did he say? Oh, he was like, yeah. Rock on. Yeah. He said something like that.
Was it all right, all right, all right?
It was something, bro. It was just like in the moment. I didn't even know they got that on camera.
You've been playing at Texas for a long time. How many times has Matthew McConaughey run up to you after a game?
Is it that long?
It's pretty long.
He came up to me a couple times during the game. Like if he walking by or whatever, he'll just give me a dap and say, keep going. That's about it.
Do you have a favorite Matthew McConaughey movie?
I don't.
Well, let me tell you about a little flick called How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days. It's a classic. Yeah. I'm kidding. Don't watch that one. It's terrible. It's a rom-com. Go for True Detective season 1 on HBO. Much better. But what's this whole off season and early season been like for you? Because you came back this year wanting to do something special, and it seems you guys are on target to do that.
I mean, I came back to win. I mean, and I came back to, like I say, win and go to the natty. You know what I mean? And just from summer workouts to now, we just been grinding and we putting it all on the field now.
It's interesting because I've said on the show a lot that the difference between this Texas team and some of the ones, in the past 10 years or so is how they've developed you guys. And you've got a bunch of guys the NFL wants. And I found an interview that you gave going into your junior year of high school. So folks want to know how much you've developed and how much you've changed at Texas. Let's take a look at this. So you are currently 6'4", 360. What do you think you are in this photo?
I'd probably say like 6'3", probably like 290, 280 something, 285.
That's a good looking 285, man.
I wish I can go back to it. I wish.
So as you got bigger, did you, because you've maintained your quickness, right? How did you do that as you got bigger?
I mean, I'm just God's gifted, that's really all I can say. I'm just God's gifted, honestly.
I'm sensing some humility there. There's got to be some work involved. Like what do you?
Oh, of course. I feel like I always been talented. I feel like I always been quick on my feet. You know what I mean? I feel like the size just never slowed me down. I mean, it slowed me down a little bit, but I feel like I still got my quickness and speed like that.
Because it's more just getting moved inside. Because you play defensive end in high school, right?
I still do.
Well, that's true. That's true. You play all along the line.
Oh yeah, everything you could think of, I can play. Even DB.
Oh, okay.
Move back there. Yeah.
We're talking safety or corner?
Safety.
Okay, you don't feel like you can flip your hips enough to be a corner?
Oh, I definitely can, but a little too quick for me.
There's another photo on your Instagram, by the way, that they caught during, I think it was preseason practice, of you intercepting a pass. Now, apparently, the video footage of this has been lost, but you definitely intercepted a pass, right?
100%.
Did you take it to the house?
I did. Pick 6, baby.
As far as we know, because there's no video?
Yeah.
We'll be right back with more from T'Vondre Sweat, but first, I want to talk to you about Prize Picks. This is the game that is so much fun to play during the college football season. Now, listen, you can play any sport with Prize Picks. Basically, any level of competition you can play. NFL, MLB, NBA, they got it all. But the college football part of it is so much fun. Last week, I did not do so well. I was very close. I was about 5 Jimmy Horn yards away from turning $100 into $500. But Easy come, easy go. Prize Picks going to give me another shot. This week, the options, there's some tantalizing ones. We all saw Deion Sanders take offense. I'm not sure how much offense he took, but at Jay Norvell, and now they've made it personal. That Shedeur Sanders 341.5 pass yards more than seemed like a pretty steep ask, because if Colorado took a big lead, would Shedeur Sanders still be in the game? I don't know. Now it seems a little more tantalizing. Jaden Daniels, LSU quarterback at Mississippi State, 251.5 passing yards. That seems like a lot, but you know how I go. I like the more than. I don't go with the less than. I like rooting for people, not against people. Sticking with the Colorado thing, I had Jimmy Horn last week. Travis Hunter, 76.5 yards. Xavier Weaver, 83.5 yards. Jimmy Horn, 84.5 yards. It's so hard with the Colorado receivers because you know they're going to spread the ball around. They're going to hit the guy that's hot, and that's who's going to get fed. And so it was Xavier Weaver last week, and I had Jimmy Horn. But passing TDs, this is a good one too. Graham Mertz for Florida, 1.5. Big rivalry game. If Florida is to do well, they may need Graham Mertz to throw them to a victory. Bo Nix against Hawaii, 2.5. That's an interesting one too. It's tough when the teams are not that evenly matched because you don't know how that's going to go. Rush TDs. How about Woody Marks? 0.5. If he scores a TD and you had more than, you win. So how does Prize Picks work? You pick 2 or more squares. You can go 2, you can go 3, 4, 5, and then you say, I think this person will be more than or less than the total. And you watch the games. And yeah, you're going to be very interested in the games. Now, Prize Picks is available in most states in the country, including Florida, Texas, and California. And if you use the referral code Andy, so download the Prize Picks app, use the referral code Andy, they will match your first deposit up to $100. So if you deposit $100 initially, they'll match $100. If you deposit $50 initially, they'll match $50. That's how you do it. Referral code is Andy. On Friday night, I'll be on Twitter going through the Prize Picks options. I'll be setting my plays for the weekend. You can set yours too. We can, make some suggestions to each other, see how we feel about it. But it's a lot of fun. Definitely gives you a lot to watch during your college football weekend. So go to Prize Picks, download the app, referral code Andy. They will match your first deposit up to $100. Let's get playing. What's it like on that defense? Because y'all look like you're having a lot of fun, and especially up front where you and Alfred and Murphy, and it seems like you've got guys that can rotate in. You're always fresh. How is it during those games?
During the games, like you say, we is pretty fresh. Coach Davis rotated us pretty good and stuff like that. And I say as a defense as a whole, I feel like we're just having fun. Like, we're just loving the game and just being us. And I feel like that's a big difference from the past couple of years is now we're just being us and we're going out there to be ball players and being the best we can be for each other.
What did it feel like before? Was it just, trying to learn the scheme and not moving, not playing fast enough? Or was it that you guys are just used to playing with each other now?
Right. I feel like since I've been here, the defense been pretty good. Offense been pretty good. I just feel like this year is just something special about the bond we have, the connection we have with each other. You know what I mean? I feel like that was like our big part of our offseason, just bonding and being with each other and enjoying the moments.
You and the rest of the D-line, like, what is your favorite thing to do together?
Together? Probably meetings.
Meetings?
Honestly.
Nobody likes meetings.
No, our meetings be pretty fun.
Are you guys, is your position coach going nuts? Well, Coach Davis doesn't seem like he's going to put up with a lot in the meeting room.
Coach Davis really laid back, man, when you get to know him. Is it
that you kind of have to earn his trust and then you can joke around as much as you want?
100%. I feel like that's with anybody. You just got to earn their trust, then they'll lighten up on you. You know what I mean? But Coach Davis, he's a great guy, man. I love the meetings though, because we be having a good time. Like he let us be ourselves. You know what I mean? He don't just be in a meeting and we just be like this the whole time. You know what I mean? He let us sit back, relax, and like just be ourselves. And I feel like that's a big part of the meeting.
What is the meeting room snack of choice for you?
We can't eat in our room.
Oh no!
Oh,
wow! So that's just pretty good that you can cut loose in a meeting where you're not even allowed to have gummy bears.
Mm-mm. That's a rule we made as a whole, though.
Interesting. You the players made that rule.
Mm-hmm. No eating. Like you can drink it all that, but we say no eating because I feel like eating just I don't know. We just came up with it. It was like nobody eating here.
Well, you talk to coaches and they always say the best teams are player led. Like when did you notice that different groups of players were doing stuff like that, like kind of setting rules and setting expectations for everybody else?
I feel like we started that this offseason because our biggest thing going into this season was to be player led and set rules and do this and that. So we met as a D-line, and that was some of our rules up in the meeting room.
It's interesting because and you guys play like a group that you're in charge of yourselves and understand. It's a mature group. You guys like you've already graduated from Texas, right? And a couple of your guys are also 4th, 5th year guys. Like how much difference does that make?
I mean, it makes a big difference. I mean, as you see, we're just very experienced and very mature. You know what I mean? Coach Davis really don't got a baby. You know, you got some coaches in schools that they still got to baby their players. You know what I mean? Like do this, do that, check this, check that. I feel like we didn't earn our coach's trust, where he treated us like grown men. You know what I mean?
So let's go back to when you got to Texas, because everybody talks about, Texas gets all the 5 stars. You were a 3-star, and you said you signed with Texas because you're a mama's boy and you wanted to stay close to mom.
I am.
And so
my mom, man.
Tell me about your mom, because I've seen you mention her a bunch, like on your Instagram. You're making sure you celebrate her birthday every year. Like,
oh yeah.
What'd your mom do for you growing up that allowed you to become the man you are today?
Sacrifice. She sacrificed a lot for me, and she raised me to be the man I am now.
What was it like on graduation day?
Tears. I'm the out of all like my mom kids, I'm the only one who graduated college. So that was pretty big.
I mean, how does that make you feel? I mean, in terms of like what you've accomplished already, because obviously you have a lot more to accomplish on the football field, but it seems like that's a pretty big one already.
I mean, it feels wonderful because I shout out all the people from my high school that say I wouldn't make it because Texas was too hard. Don't get me wrong, Texas is very hard. But I always told myself, like, forget what the haters say, like, just continue doing what you're doing, keep your head on the swivel, and you're going to graduate, you're going to make it.
And what's it feel like for you walking across that stage? I saw the video. It looked like you were having a lot of fun.
I mean, man, it was wonderful because, like, I ain't gonna lie, like me personally, I thought I never would do it either, you know what I mean? And me doing that was just so big for me, and I don't know, I really don't even have words for it because, like, that was like the most beautiful thing ever to me, honestly. Like walking, get my papers, you know what I mean? So it felt wonderful because a lot of people told me I couldn't do it, and I did it. And it like all gave me flashbacks like, oh, this person said I couldn't do this. This person said I couldn't do that. Oh, you ain't gonna make it. Oh, you're not smart enough. You know what I mean? So
and the haters can motivate probably better sometimes than the people who tell you, oh, you can do it.
Facts. But the crazy thing is, I still remember the people, and they didn't even graduate college. You know what I'm saying? So
you don't ever call up and be like, "What's your degree in?"
Nah, I don't. I'm not that type of person. I trust me, I remember, but like, I'm not the petty person to go back and throw stuff in people's face. You know.
Listen, you're a college graduate hanging with Matthew McConaughey. Think about that. That's not many people could say that
at all.
I got to ask you this because every time we have an elite lineman on, we ask him the same question. What is your perfect steak? Cut and how it's cooked.
I got to have a little pink in it.
Okay. Good.
I got to have a little pink in it.
Are you a ribeye, filet, New York strip?
Give it to me.
That's right. That's how you get to 362 pounds. You don't discriminate.
I'm gonna eat it.
So
all they gotta have a little pink in it. I'll be all right.
I am 100% in agreement. You can't cook the flavor out of it. You gotta leave it in there. Mm-hmm. I'm actually a rare guy, so I can take all the pink you want, but I'll even go red. But
really,
as you get older, you may find yourself getting like, because I was a medium rare guy when I was your age. So you may move on to the rare, but we'll see. I mean, you're gonna have an opportunity to eat a lot of steaks between now and when you're my age, because you got an NFL future ahead of you, you got a college degree, you got all this stuff. But let's talk about right now, because you guys are gonna play Wyoming.
Mm-hmm.
We've already seen Wyoming shock Texas Tech. I'm sure your coaches have mentioned that a few times. How do you come down from that high of winning in Tuscaloosa and get back to where you need to be for Saturday?
I mean, I feel like this team, I feel like we just, like I said, we celebrated in the moment. And after that, Monday, we moved on, and we have full respect for Wyoming and stuff like that. And we're not going to take this game for granted. We're going to go out there and play like we know how, and we'll see the end results.
Devondre, thank you so much, and good luck.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
I am now 100% in on at least the Texas D-line, if not the entire Texas Longhorns team, because nobody actually likes meetings. If these guys like position meetings, forget it. Who else has a chance? No, but seriously, it's really impressive to watch the difference in development on the D-line. I remember a few years ago when they had Poona Ford. He was a very good player, goes undrafted, was the best player on the D-line. They've got guys now that are going to go, maybe first round, but second, third round, and then other guys, young guys behind them who are going to come up and be that type of player too. And T'Vondre Sweat, good example, was not a 5-star recruit. He was a 3-star recruit who had just developed, and he's really unbelievably quick for his size. He's not kidding. He really can play all along the defensive line. I'm not sure about safety, but he can definitely play all along on the defensive line, and he's fun to watch. He is very fun to watch. So I cannot wait to see what that group does going forward. Again, if you like meetings, you're kind of a psycho, but probably in a good way. Another man who likes meetings, Nick Kosko. We met up and we talked about Coach Prime and about Alabama and their quarterback situation. Here's Nick. We're joined now by On3's Nick Kosko. And Nick had a big guest on his show this week. You had Tim Tebow on the show.
I did have Tim Tebow. I haven't talked to him in, I want to say 2 years was the last time I talked to him. So it was good to catch back up. I mean, let's be real. I don't think he exactly remembered me for the amount of people he talks to all the time. But it was good to have him on, and he had a lot of great insight this week.
Tim's a good dude, and he remembers more than you think. So when he was playing at Florida, which was a situation where if he ever went out in public, it was like the Beatles in 1963, essentially. And so he had some little tricks that he had. And so I was eating at this restaurant at one point, and I'm sitting kind of in the front area, and there's a booth in the back of that section where you cannot see whoever's facing the wall. And so I'm sitting there with some friends and my wife, and we're just yucking it up. And all of a sudden I get a tap on my shoulder. I look up, it's Tim Tebow. I was like, what? What are you doing here? And he's like, that's my seat over there. Nobody bothers him. So
was it one of those restaurants where they usually put all the celebrity pictures on the walls and say, yeah, they've been here? One of those?
No, this straight up cheesy sports bar, all you can eat wing night on Mondays, that sort of thing. But he found that might have been the only table in Gainesville that he could have enjoyed a meal without anybody bothering him. Like one time, his freshman year of college, I was in Best Buy with my wife, and he and one of his older brothers walked in, and they walked by, and I kind of nudged my wife. I'm like, hey, that's Tim Tebow. And later I ran into to Dan Mullen's wife, because Dan was the OC at the time. And Megan, his wife, says, they had to call the cops to get him out of the store. I was like, no.
He's a police escort wherever he goes, man.
It's incredible. And it's still kind of that way. But now there's a different guy in college football who gets that kind of treatment. And you talked to Tebow about Deion Sanders and Deion mania.
And that's probably the biggest story in college football. It's Deion Sanders
Prime.
in Colorado.
There you go.
I mean, you look at these first two games, upset of TCU. They knock off Nebraska at home in dominant fashion. He has taken the college football world by storm. We knew this coming in from Jackson State, that he was different, but now he's doing it on the field as a coach with his players, his sons back there as well. I mean, your first reaction to this 2-0 start here for Colorado in the Pac-12?
Well, I love it, but I also love it because he's doing it his way. And I love it because he's doing it with such passion and love and belief and buildup of young men. I think that's something that sometimes gets missed. Look at what he says to him. Look at the way he's able to believe in them, pour into them. I think if you were to talk to a lot of his players, they believe they can do more and accomplish more after they've been around him than before. That's a sign of a good coach. That's a sign of building confidence. That's a sign of encouragement, of real encouragement. And I love that. I love that that it talks about being ready for the moment, that he doesn't shy away from it. And I love that. And I think his players feed off of that. I think you will continue to see more players be intrigued by the way he's doing it, because I think there's a lot of players that want to have pressure on them, but they also want to be encouraged and inspired in the moment. And that's what Prime is doing. And look at the way they handle not just the first and second down. Look at the way his team plays on third, fourth down, red zone, second half. The moments when you could either rise to the occasion or shrink under pressure. And man, they rise to the occasion. I think that's a good sign of a team playing inspired and fearless.
So, Nick, if I told you a year ago that College Game Day will be at the Colorado State game, what would you have said?
I mean, if we're talking about a year ago from today, that's interesting. I'd be like, well, who's the coach? What are we doing? I've been high on Deion in Colorado since December. So basically when he was hired, but I did not expect this right away. At least the mania behind it. I figured there's going to be a lot of buzz because it is Deion. For Colorado State, I mean, I would have thought maybe, Colorado, Oregon, Colorado, USC, a game featuring Colorado would be a game day type of atmosphere. But no, I could not have called this. I predicted in December that Deion in Colorado, I think I said I'd be shocked if they didn't win 6 games this year.
Wow.
And yeah, I said this, and people, I go back, look at the tape. It's probably somewhere in my archives, but I did say I'd be shocked if they didn't win 6 games this year. Now, that might have been a premature prediction on my part, at least in December, but I believed it because I figured this is the Deion buzz, the Deion effect. But if you asked me in September of 2022, I would never have thought Deion would have been in Colorado. I never would have thought Colorado would win more than 1 or 2 games this year based on what they were last year.
It is amazing how much our perspectives have changed on this. And I was one who thought ultimately would work because he's good at bringing in talent. But I didn't know that they'd be able to build a roster that would be this effective this quickly. And that's the part I think is kind of amazing. And, it's funny that so College Game Day is there. And I think the conventional wisdom is they're doing this so they can get the Deion thing in a week that's not got a lot of marquee matchups so that they can go to Ohio State, Notre Dame next week. But honestly, if they blow the doors off Colorado State, they might need to go to Eugene. Just ride it out.
I don't see why not. I mean, you look at, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, but Big Noon's going to be there too. I'm pretty sure everyone's going to Boulder this week because they're saying, why not? Not only is it a gorgeous area, gorgeous campus, and Deion's already raved about that. He says Boulder sells itself. Well, Deion's selling everything. I mean, I could say tourists, skiers, anybody who likes Colorado can go to Boulder. All right. But for Colorado football, that's totally fine. Now that Deion is selling it, it's like, all right, Boulder is where I want to go. And you just mentioned how he's able to attract talent. We've seen it through the transfer portal. We can talk day in and day out about, 70 to 80 new guys compared to the roster last year. And then you look at what he's able to do from a developmental standpoint. He brought in proven guys. And also he's brought in guys that he knew could contribute right away as freshmen, such as Dylan Edwards, the running back, who he's known since he was a baby practically. So, I think we didn't give enough credit to Deion Sanders' ability to recruit and develop, because we said, well, it's at Jackson State, it's an HBCU. He's making a difference at the FCS level. He can't do that at the Power 5 level. But we've clearly seen that in just the span of 2 games, and the whole offseason leading up was teasing this, that this team actually would be very competitive. I just don't think anybody would have thought it would have exploded this fast.
Well, and the other thing he can sell now is all of this attention plus immediate playing time. Like if I had a good class of 2024 class and some players that I thought Deion might like, I would be very scared of him coming in trying to flip them right now.
Yeah, I absolutely would too. Because don't forget the Big 12 thing coming next year. So they're going back to a conference, jumping ship of the Pac-12, whatever that might be in 2024 and beyond. But now that you're going to be in the Big 12, and I get that Texas and Oklahoma are going to the SEC, and it's amid a bunch of college football realignment. But now you can sell the Big 12. You could sell those Midwestern games, and you're going to play the likes of Texas Tech and TCU every year, Baylor every year. You'll get the Iowa State. So you're going to get bigger matchups from a different perspective of college football. I know you're not going to get all the West Coast matchups again, because, again, USC and UCLA are going to the Big Ten as well as Washington and Oregon. But I think now that you're going to go on a bigger stage, and now that you're going to get the Big 12 branding, I think it only helps the entire athletic department. And plus, you just mentioned if you're a guy who's in the class of 2024, and if you're a Deion type of guy, no captains, but dogs, I think you better just to say, you know what, I'm not fully committed yet. Let me see if Coach Prime wants to say, we're interested in you.
Well, okay, that brings up the question. Would you rather be a leader or a dog? Because leaders get an L, dogs get a D. Travis Hunter's a D. Shedeur Sanders is an L. If it's you on your jersey, you want an L or a D?
I'd rather get a D. I mean, come on. And I'm not talking about my grades in school, of course, but I'd rather have a D, rather be a dog. I mean, we know that viral video that was on Instagram and TikTok, TikTok, excuse me. This guy, dog. Travis Hunter, dog. Shedeur Sanders, dog. I'd rather be referred to as a dog, because those are the guys that they might, even if they're not the flashiest guys, they're the guys that put in the hardest work. Leaders, I think a dog could be a leader. So I'm going to lean with a dog on this one.
Yeah, dog is the highest compliment another player can pay to a player. So that's where I think, you want the D. I think that's of the two. Plus, just an L, because an L can mean something else. And
it could, and I'm of the mind. Can we start getting the maybe a dog face, maybe a German Shepherd, a Rottweiler,
yes,
a pit bull, something like that? Maybe, even a Yorkie. I don't care. If you have a dog on the jersey, it's now you're a de facto
Basset Hound.
Hey, yeah, that's totally fine with me.
Perfect. So you saw what Jay Norvell said.
And I sat down with ESPN today, and I don't care if they hear it in Boulder. I told them I took my hat off and I took my glasses off, and I said, when I talk to grown-ups, I take my hat and my glasses off. That's what my mother taught me. So
I love this. I will never be one who says, oh, you shouldn't say that because now they're going to beat you by 100. No. Coaches, be as petty as you want. Say as many things. And this is Jay Norvell essentially saying, we have better manners than them.
It's only 10 seconds, and I get what he's doing. And now, me being a Colorado stan, of course, I'm going to say, well, Jay Norvell shouldn't have said that. And do you realize what you're doing?
Please
Matt
say
Rule,
that. As a content
Matt
creator,
Rule
please
barely
say
said
that.
something. I know Matt Rule barely said something, and Deion's like, it's personal now. It's like the Michael Jordan meme from the Last Dance documentary. I took that personally, and this rivalry is now personal, even though you're still not going to play him in the Big 12 next year. So now that he actually said, and there's a shot at Deion, well, I take my hat off and my glasses off. And then I think it was because the power of Twitter/X. I think 5 minutes later, someone had a screenshot of all his press conferences. He had a visor on. They say, what, a visor doesn't count as a hat when you're talking to grown-ups? So Jay Norvell, that's fine. I know he's trying to rile. It's during his coach's show. We know what that is. Most of those are at a bar. Brian Kelly aside, we know that, you look at these coaches' shows, they say, oh, the fans are in attendance. Let me say something that's going to get them geared up for the game. Totally fine, but you're digging your own grave here, pal, especially going to Boulder.
By the way, speaking of coach shows, the person who does the best talking at a coach's show relative to his press conferences is Nick Saban. Like, his coach's show is the place to go if you want to get Nick Saban saying something. Because for some reason, if a fan asks the question, he will expand on it a lot more than he does in a press conference. But let's talk about Nick Saban, because I noticed you were tweeting a bit about this subject this week as well. The quarterback situation in Alabama, you pointed out, and I think correctly so, we're dealing with a coach who pulled his starter at halftime of the national championship game. Let's not think that this is set in stone with Jalen Milroe.
No, and he's done it in the past as well. I forget I think it was a Blake Barnett was a starter at one point. He got pulled after 2 to 3 games, if memory serves.
Oh no, Blake Barnett got pulled after a quarter for Jalen Hurts. He never gave it back.
So there you go. I'm getting my wires mixed up, and again, I tried to give Nick Saban the benefit of the doubt there, but he's not afraid to do something. And then, the way I look at Jalen Milroe and the Alabama quarterback situation is, well, you brought in a transfer in Tyler Buchner, and everyone assumed that would be your guy because nobody won the job outright in spring. And, of course, he's following Tommy Rees over from Notre Dame. And you figure, well, he knows the offense. You might as well try it. But if nobody clearly won the job through spring, summer, and fall camp, what do you really have? And I think they just opted for Milroe because he was in the Alabama culture for at least a little bit longer than the other guys, and he got playing time last year behind Bryce Young.
He's a better athlete than the other guys.
Right, and I'm totally fine with that. Put your best athletes in the field and see what happens, because obviously Saban's not afraid of that, and they've won big games. They've won titles without superstar quarterbacks, and people forget Bryce Young was the quarterback last year coming off a Heisman Trophy year. Then they didn't even make the playoffs, so sometimes Saban might have to do something a little bit different, go back to the ground, play good defense. So I don't think his leash is as long as people might think. If he thinks this offense is going to take the next step by putting in a Ty Simpson, putting in a Tyler Buchner, I think he'll pull the plug sooner rather than later, because, again, they lost to Texas. It's not an SEC team yet. They can still run the table. And looking at the SEC West, I don't see any legitimate challengers to win that division over Alabama other than, maybe if Arkansas pulls it off, Ole Miss pulls it up, or I'm not too high on what I've seen so far through LSU and obviously Texas A&M for the first 2 weeks.
So it's interesting you mentioned everybody assuming that Buchner would be the guy. We need to have a code with transfer quarterbacks. Like, let's establish a formalized system so people understand what's going on. Like, if someone isn't leaving a starting job, they are not guaranteed a starting job. Like, it should be written in stone.
I do agree with that too. And the fact that, I would say Buchner left after the spring, so he already had Sam Hartman in there. You knew Sam Hartman was going to start at Notre Dame. At that point, you're like, all right, well, is Buchner any good? Is he good enough to win the starting job outright at Alabama? Those were the biggest question marks I had, considering he was banged up in Notre Dame. He wasn't overly impressive, other than, again, he knew the offense that Tommy Rees ran. So he was taking a chance, I would say, considering you had 2 to 3 quarterbacks that were viable for Nick Saban this season anyway. But the fact that he didn't win the job right away or impress enough right away to maybe extend the battle into the first couple of weeks. And again, you're not going to do it against Texas, but maybe that week 1 where he gets more playing time than anticipated. I think they just knew it going in. Let's just start Jalen Milroe and see what happens the first couple of weeks, because he gives us the best chance to win right now, even though we're still not totally sure.
All right, so you are a Jersey guy.
I am.
Scarlet Knights got Virginia Tech coming in. I think this is a very winnable game for Rutgers.
It is. I would say going into the year, everyone circled this game as, all right, this is the prove-it game. Can you win a big non-conference game like this? Now, again, big being a relative term, because Virginia Tech, we know, is also in rebuilding mode under Brent Pry. But with the way Schiano has coached up this team this year, and again, Northwestern and Temple, not overly impressive, but from Rutgers standards over the past couple of years since Schiano came back to Piscataway, it's been better. The defense looks really good. Gavin Wimsatt is not a turnover machine right now at quarterback, so that's really good, or it's at least a good sign to see if you're a Scarlet Knight fan. I'm an alum, so I guess I have to consider myself a fan when I'm not working, at least. But this is a good game. It's in Piscataway, so you already have the advantage there, and I would say if they win this game, again, you're halfway to bowl eligibility with 3 wins already. I know Michigan, they have to go to Ann Arbor in week 4, but they come back home and play Wagner. Hypothetically, you could be 4-1 after 5 games, and then at that point, you have 7 games left to win just 2. You're back in the postseason the legitimate way, not the Gator Bowl a couple years ago where Texas A&M had to drop out. I was down in Jacksonville. I said, oh, maybe they'll beat Wake Forest. And then fourth quarter happened, Sam Hartman happened, and that was pretty much it. But I would say this is probably Schiano's best team overall since coming back. Again, not the heyday. And again, he's in the Big Ten this time around. Who knows what the future is in store with them once the realignment happens. But I would say this is his best squad so far in his second stint. And if they are going to be a legitimate bowl team, they do have to. I would say they have to win at 3:30 on Saturday.
Can't believe you're not going to hand them the dub going to Ann Arbor next week. It's not like anything important's happening, like Jim Harbaugh coaching his first game.
No, not at all. And believe me, I've have called some very interesting games. I go back to my college days when I was a student. We were on student radio. We did go to Ann Arbor, broadcast the game at the Big House. If you remember this 2017 game. That was the John O'Korn era at Michigan. He was pulled at halftime. Brandon Peters comes in, and Rutgers ends up losing, 30? It was 35-14, but I think they were tied at 14 at one point. I maintain to this day, and this is not fandom, if John O'Korn plays that whole game, I think Rutgers upsets them on the road. And that was still with Chris Ash as head coach. So take that with a grain of salt. And then, of course, you've seen since Schiano came back, the COVID year in 2020, went to double or triple OT in Piscataway. They played them well last year. It was either last year or 2 years ago. They lost 20-13 in the Big House. So they play them tough for some reason. And that was 2 years ago. Last year, they played them tough, then blew up at halftime. But for some reason, Michigan's the one team out of the big boys. They do play close. But we'll see what happens in next week. I think Harbaugh has a bit of a Jersey vendetta out there as well.
Could be, but got to beat Brett Pry and the Hokies first. You're right.
That is true.
If they win that one, they're in really good shape. So
great shape, absolutely.
Nick, thank you so much, and we'll talk to you again real soon.
Absolutely, Andy. Appreciate you having me, man.
The great Nick Kosko. Yeah, definitely going for the dog. And I agree that it needs to be a picture of a dog, not just a D. And Rottweiler, I think, feels like the right breed. I got a Bernie Doodle, so like a picture of her is not going to intimidate anyone. But yeah, let's go Rottweiler. And now let us move on elsewhere in the Big Ten. We were just talking about Rutgers. Let's talk about the drive for 325. Iowa alum Anthony Herron, who's on the Big Ten channel on SiriusXM Radio. We talked about a lot of different Big Ten teams, but we started with his alma mater and that great, great contract that has us hanging on every single point. Joined now by the great Anthony Herron. You can hear him on Big Ten Radio on SiriusXM with his partner, Matt Schick. And you had me just dying on Thursday. This is a big story. Nico Ragaini, the receiver at Iowa. You lustily pronounce his name all the time, but he got reprimanded by the Big Ten. He was asked about a call in the Iowa State game that he didn't like. So let's hear Nico, and then I would like you to expound on the pronunciation some more.
Was it pass interference? Yeah, I mean, I feel like what's the NCAA or Big Ten going to find me if I say that's a horseshit fucking call or what? Yeah, I don't know. I probably shouldn't have dropped the F-bomb in there, but oh, Jesus.
Don't worry, I won't use that.
Yeah.
I probably shouldn't have used that customer, but here's some more.
Yeah, I mean, he's a grown adult. If there's any grown adult on the football team, it is Nico Ragaini, who will use a little bit of adult language there, a little blue language there from Nico. But I suppose he's certainly got enough stripes there with the Hawkeyes to feel emboldened to question the officials. And it was a bad call. They did miss a call. They blew a call in that moment, but. His reprimand from the Big Ten, hopefully that ends up putting the situation to bed for now. But, as his offense for Iowa starts to attack a little bit more, Nico probably won't be the only or the main target in those scenarios, but he's had a couple of chances. He's made a couple of plays on jump balls. That one, the defensive back decided to tackle him and drag him down by the jersey instead of allowing an opportunity to go up and field the ball.
Well, let's talk about your alma mater's offense, because it's obviously a big theme everywhere. The drive for 325. They are 6 points off the pace right now. I've said many times, and I think If they win 10 games and they average 23 points a game, Brian Ferentz will keep his job. Everything will be fine. But it does seem like there is, and maybe I'm just going back to that Utah State game. Those first 2 drives, it felt so ripe with potential.
Yeah.
Can they break out? Like, can they be something more than they have been?
I believe they can. And to your point, Andy, they've definitely shown some signs of it at times here. And if nothing else, the offense was so limited in multiple ways, really. One, what Brian Ferentz felt comfortable calling. You could see that because there wasn't confidence in the execution, partly because of the quarterback position, partly because of the available talent. You probably remember last season, all the receivers that were injured for Iowa. They had one healthy scholarship receiver early in the season. The game I called early last year against the Iowa State Cyclones, Nico Ragaini, who wasn't even hardly available in that game. They had Sam Laporta, one scholarship receiver. That was pretty much it as far as available pass catchers. So personnel-wise, it was really tough sledding for them early in the year also. So that did make Brian Ferentz's job even more difficult. But this year, I do think the offense is limited a bit right now because Cade McNamara hurt his leg in the preseason. And so what Iowa's been known for in the passing attack, a lot of that bootleg action where, you're moving the pocket and getting the quarterback outside the tackle box, where you have to start in one direction, faking the stretch zone play, which even that, from a mobility perspective, we haven't seen Iowa utilizing that early this season because you take the snap from under center, you have to extend your legs, your lower bodies, to get to that aiming point to be able to even get the football out to the running back to reach it out there. And then on the boot action, after you fake that in one direction, you whip around and start running, sprinting all the way to the opposite side of the field. It seems to have been deemed too big a risk right now for Iowa to put Cade McNamara on the move like that. So that condenses a part of what they do with their passing attack. It's also condensed, like I'm referencing, the run game, not only the stretch zone play that they love to run, but even things like QB sneaks. They haven't done any of those yet. We saw what a play that became for the Iowa offense in recent years. So I think the offense right now is a bit condensed because of QB injury and because of some newness with the personnel. But to your question, I do believe there is great potential for the offense to expand here. We've seen a couple of really cool moments from Seth Anderson early in the season. Caleb Johnson, a record-setting freshman running back last year, hasn't completely got untracked yet, but then Jazian Patterson was able to have some big moments against Iowa State in their in-state rivalry game last weekend. The offensive line showing some really strong signs of improvement early in the season versus where they've been the last couple of years as young and banged up. So the game I'm going to call, I'm actually going to be on the broadcast this weekend for the Big Ten Network. I'm looking forward to seeing how aggressive, how much attack there's going to be from the Hawkeyes here, not only airing it out, but then how much can they expand the rushing attack and try to dominate the line of scrimmage.
I just hope you get to call 3 Nico Ragaini touchdowns.
Yeah, that'll be a good time. That'll be a really good time.
Shout out to his grandma for correcting everybody on the pronunciation. Why does this only happen in the Big Ten? But like Monty Ball. So I've been in this league for 3 years now, but y'all have gotten my name wrong. It's Monte.
Right.
How come you didn't tell us? That didn't seem important.
But now that I'm on the way out, now that I feel a little bit more emboldened to let you know what I think you've been getting wrong, I'm saying it with my chest. Here's how you're supposed to be saying my name. It happens every season almost.
That is beautiful. Let's talk about Penn State and Illinois, because I feel like this is one of those games that in the past 2 or 3 years, Penn State would go into Champaign. It would be ugly, clunky, and it'd probably be a 3 or 4 point win. This feels like kind of a test for Drew Aller. Like, can you make this look smoother? Can you make this look better? Because we just watched a really talented quarterback, Jalen Daniels, take apart Illinois' defense.
And, a couple seasons ago, maybe even a 37 overtime loss, depending on how Penn State came out and played. I think because Drew Aller has been so spotless early on here, it's tough to presume that we'll see that level of execution week in and week out because this is his first season as a starting quarterback. But that being said, I think it's hard to deny what we've seen from Penn State. They're playing like the most complete team in the Big Ten through the first couple of weeks of the season, and Drew Aller is a huge part of that reason why. The best offensive line that James Franklin has had so far in his time in State College is a huge part of that. as well. And so that to me is the key matchup. In addition to, just whether or not Drew Aller can continue to move, extend plays, and throw the ball as crisply as he has. But does he continue to have a run game that complements him and that passing attack in the way that it has so far? Because, of course, that up until last season, there had been several years where Penn State was just so ineffective running the football. It made Sean Clifford's life, even as an experienced quarterback, that much more difficult. And so now you got a couple of seasons in a row here where you have Olu Fashion, who is maybe the top offensive tackle in the sport, and depth and talent along the offensive line executing at a really high level, and multiple talented running backs. So it doesn't all have to be on Drew Aller. To beat Illinois, you still have a chance because of the way, the depth and talent, the versatility they have on offense, and one of the best. Any evidence he won't continue to be exceptional up to this point, and especially as penalized as Illinois' defense has been. Taz Nicholson is a very talented defensive back on the back end. He's had some key penalties. They've been inconsistent even up front. I thought that Johnny Newton and Keith Randolph had the potential to be the best tandem of defensive linemen, not only in the Big Ten, maybe in college football for the way they've looked the last couple of seasons, and that hasn't shown up consistently as well. Randolph was really good in the first game. Newton was really good in their second game. If they can combine that, that gives Illinois a recipe for them controlling the run game and getting after Drew Aller to try to stay in this thing.
The thing that drove me nuts with Illinois last week against Kansas is they had Luke Altmaier throwing to the sidelines pretty much every play and didn't break the playbook open and let him go over the middle and let him run around a little bit until the game was already out of hand. It feels like there's some talent there, but maybe they're not taking advantage of it.
And I wonder a couple of different aspects of that too, Andy, because Barry Lenny Jr., he's multiple years into working with Brett Bielema, specifically in Champaign, and they have a working relationship that goes back prior to that as well. And so there's trust there that's built up. So I wonder if Barry Lenny Jr., whether it's him talking to Brett Bielema or Bielema talking to him and just saying, how do we open this thing up even more? Because Luke Altmaier has thrown the ball pretty well, pretty cleanly from the pocket, and he's shown a level of athleticism beyond what I anticipated him having. And so he's even an extension of the ground attack and should, with that mobility, with that rushing ability, he should be able to open up additional run lanes for Reggie Love III, for Josh McCray, with an offensive line that's still kind of growing and maturing up front. And so I think that utilizing that kind of, if you feel like Luke Altmaier has mastered the entire playbook, then do more with it, and you can set up some chunk play opportunities like you're talking about, where you got Isaiah Williams, who's capable of playing the best version of receiver that he's played now that he's been at it for a while. Pat Bryant has been a big play machine at times when he's been healthy last season. They've even got Malik Elzy, who's one of the top receiver recruits in the country, who really hasn't done anything yet, but he's talented enough where even if you get a package of plays or just get him on the field for a couple of go routes or a couple of dig routes or something, that it seems like they've got more they can access there, especially recognizing that Altmaier is a bit more of a multi-dimensional talent with his mobility than we maybe thought he was coming in.
Yeah, the other one this week in the Big Ten that is fascinating to me, and we've been over the Mel Tucker stuff on this show. You guys have been over the Mel Tucker stuff on your show a ton. I kind of want to spin it forward to Michigan State on the field against Washington. This is an opportunity for Harlan Barnett, who's been wanting this job for a long time. This is his dream job. And, that he went down to Florida State with the idea that if he did well there, he's probably a head coaching candidate. It didn't go well under Willie Taggart at Florida State. So that didn't happen, but now he's got his shot. And then what do you think this team does? Because they're playing an incredibly formidable opponent in Washington,
right,
but they had this happen, and there's usually kind of two ways you go from that.
I think that the locker room's potential for galvanizing exists. And it's odd because, we go through all these different sort of mental gymnastics of trying to guess and trying to presume what young people might do, how they may react to something like this. And for me, I was talking about it a bit with Northwestern's situation as well, where they at least had a few weeks of lead time, which wasn't much. Now you got days of lead time in East Lansing to sort of suddenly have have the knowledge that your coach won't be there, won't be on the sidelines with you anymore. But when I went through a coaching change in college, my first 2 years at Iowa were with Hayden Fry. My last 2 years were with Kirk Ferentz. When Hayden Fry announced his retirement, it's like it was yesterday. I can remember just standing there in the press conference with him talking and him getting choked up, and myself and all my teammates after my sophomore year, whatever. I'm like, 18, 19 years old, sitting there sobbing my eyes out because my coach is no longer going to be there. And that was with, we got notice, we got all this other stuff going on. We got to prep, months and months to get ready for it by next season. So to have the rug just pulled out from under you in this way, like the Michigan State players have in a season that I called their spring game. I mean, I know how much promise they felt this roster had this year. It was the deepest roster that they had had since Mel Tucker took the program over during the COVID season back in 2020. So not only Mel Tucker not being there with them this weekend, but then also feeling like for the last basically game and a half that they've played really well and can continue to improve from this point forward. So you mentioned Harlan Barnett having this opportunity. It's a big deal for him because of how long he's been in and around that program in so many different capacities. So it's a huge opportunity for him individually, but then this team as a whole, can they compartmentalize the situation they find themselves in? And for a guy like Noah Kim, Noah Kim was barely able to kind of finish his high school football career because of injuries, gets recruited by Mark D'Antonio to East Lansing. He's one of the last remaining D'Antonio recruits on the roster right now, but then he's backing up Peyton Thorne, waiting for his opportunity. He goes into camp, and part of the reason, and everyone was really shocked to how Mel Tucker talked about the quarterback position and every position on the roster being kind of up for competition, but they felt like with that 11-win season, it was K9, Kenneth Walker III, but Peyton Thorne played at a high level that year too, didn't so much last season, battled through some injuries. Part of the reason Mel Tucker said, quarterback's open, is because of the maturation physically, mentally, emotionally of Noah Kim. And we've got 2 games of evidence now of what Mel Tucker was seeing, what the staff, what Jay Johnson, his offensive coordinator, were seeing in Noah Kim, with him as the Big Ten's leading passer right now. And so all that may come crumbling down because of the intangible, the off field, and how that can fracture, your focus that you have in prepping for a game week in and week out, or it galvanizes them. We just really have no idea. Well,
and it's interesting because they've actually beaten Michael Penix Jr. in Spartan Stadium before.
Right.
He played there for Indiana, I believe, his sophomore year, but he was not there with Rome Odunze and Jalen McMillan and Jalen Polk. That is a significant difference for Mr. Penix.
And the way he's playing and being able to sustain health in the way that he has, and having his old Hoosiers offensive coordinator, Kalen DeBoer, out there as his head coach and play caller with UW, this is the fully matured version of Michael Penix Jr., a guy who could be in the NFL right now, could be trying to compete for a starting job in the National Football League, came back for another season, and is playing at a Heisman level. So it's fun to see that. It's fun to watch that. And this was going to be a revenge type game because of the way that Washington just ran them up and down the field last season when the Spartans went to Seattle. It's going to be it should still be I would imagine a near packed house. I would imagine the crowd will be behind the team. And I've talked about it a lot over the years, Andy. Spartan Stadium, in my opinion, is one of the most underrated atmospheres in the Big Ten Conference. When the team is doing well, when that place is full, and the way that the sound within Spartan Stadium, because of its structure, it's like a metallic type of structure throughout. So the sound echoes and reverberates throughout. It's really loud, and the crowd is impactful when they're into it. And so when the team's good, man, it's a really intimidating place to play.
I was standing on the goal line on the sidelines when Kirk Cousins hit Keith Nickel on the rocket play. And I mean, that place was loud. You're right. It is one of the better environments in college football. And, I think back to what happened at Auburn last year with Cadillac Williams, how he kind of galvanized that fan base as an interim coach. Perhaps Harlan Barnett can do the same thing, an alum who, has always dreamed of this, and now he's got his shot. So you kind of hope for him and for the players that's what happens.
Yeah, I would certainly hope so. And even if all the Mel Tucker stuff wouldn't have developed over the weekend, it would have been a long shot to actually pick Michigan State to win this game. But the line of scrimmage is where I do feel like there's a potential advantage. Now, how much does it mean when you've got a passing attack that's as potent and combustible as Washington's is, that can just take the top off snap after snap? Maybe the line of scrimmage, there's just not a big enough advantage there. But that's where the recruiting over between last season and this season, between health on each line of scrimmage, which wasn't there for the Spartans last year, and the transfer portal talent that's brought in, as much as we think of the 2021 season and what running back and linebacker meant to the success of that season's team, the defensive front, Mel Tucker said when I called their game in the spring, this is the best transfer portal class, top to bottom, the collection of talent that he had brought in there. And I feel like that's showing up on film. So the line of scrimmage in this game, Noah Kim, I don't see Noah Kim and the weaponry available, Michigan State's passing attack and offense. I don't see them just going score for score with UW all day. But that defensive front, if they can impact Michael Penix Jr. throughout the game and make him restless in the pocket, maybe force some turnovers that he's not really prone for at this point in his development, then that to me is as big a recipe as anything. You use that offensive line to try and stay out of predictable downs and distances where that UW pass rush can't get after you. And Nate Carter has a big game. The D-line has a big pass rush game. That to me is going to be as important or in a lot of ways even more important than just Noah Kim, being the Noah Kim who's been leading the Big Ten in passing early.
Well, it's going to be a classic Big Ten matchup soon, but not quite yet. Anthony Herron,
yeah, right.
Thank you so much for joining us, and may you call all the Nico Ragaini touchdowns.
Yes. I'm looking forward to it. We'll see. Maybe this will be the game, Andy, that we get a little bit. I've been hoping that we'll end up getting Cooper DeJean on offense at some point for the Hawks. Who knows? Maybe that'll happen this weekend.
Hey, Travis Hunter's inspiring everybody.
Yeah.
Ragaini just rolls off the tongue. It really does. And listen, I do think the Iowa offense is going to get going. I don't think they're going to end up under 25 points a game. I still have faith, but that contract makes me want to watch every single snap just to see, can they do this? Our extra point tonight, though, we move back to the SEC. And again, I've said this all week. I don't want to hear this week doesn't have good games. This slate is no good. There will be games that make us go, what the hell just happened? Because that's what happens on these weekends. But there's one game that we know is going to inspire passion from both fan bases, and that's Florida-Tennessee. Because the Gators need this game badly. The Vols have not won in Gainesville since 2003. Something has to give. And this is the kind of reaction you get. A little background. So my first job out of college, I covered the Tennessee beat for the Chattanooga Times Free Press. So there was a basketball player at Tennessee, the power forward named Ron Slay. Ron Slay was the most hilarious player to interview. He was absolutely a joy, and he played like his hair was on fire. Well, or like his headband was on. He was a headband guy. He's doing radio in Nashville now, and he was talking about this game. And look, Ron played basketball, but in his heart, he was always a football player. And so this is how excited he is about this game. And I don't think he's alone among Tennessee fans or Florida fans when it comes to this game.
I don't care what you say. Ain't nothing got to make sense that's coming out of my mouth because this is what it's going to be all week.
Well, it doesn't make sense.
Exactly.
But we're doing a radio show where you need to make sense, and you're not making any kind of sense.
No, he doesn't need to make sense. What they need to make sense of is go Vols. That's all I know. That's all I know. Let's go.
It's Tuesday.
Say it.
Are you calling an audible?
I'm right now. Whoa. They coming through because I'm going to hit them.
Hey, yeah.
I'm going to hit them. I'm going to feel. That's what we doing, man. Hey.
Poor Don Davenport, his co-host at 104.5 The Zone in Nashville, trying to manage. But Ron Slay is all of us when it comes to a rivalry game, especially one for, in his case, his alma mater. Hasn't won down there in a while. Always seems to get the football snatched away by Lucy. Feels pretty good, but they're pretty nervous too. Guys, there are no bad college football weekends. I promise this was going to be great too. We'll talk to you on Saturday.